Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. This is Laura with Stuff I Find Interesting, episode 64. And that was Matthew May. And I like his stuff. His stuff's pretty good. Copyright free. Most of it. Some of his stuff has been snapped up. And rightfully so. It's good stuff. So, overly ambitious episode today. Two areas that I kind of delve into a little bit more than usual, and one is the topic of love hotels. Yes, you heard that right. And the other one is the area of Mapimi, which is in Mexico. And I probably should Google to make sure I'm saying that right. It's a mysterious place in Mexico. Stuff's happened there. There might be some conspiracies. We're going to talk about it. But first, we're going to revisit an old friend. Remember the Sphinx? We did like 3 episodes on him. We're not going to talk about the Sphinx anymore. But, okay, well, we are, just within the context of this episode. And that is to say that it's still being studied. People are still speculating. What's in the head? Are there tunnels? What's underneath? But this particular article does not go into conspiracies. It says that perhaps erosion sculpted the Sphinx, like so, as you can see in this picture with the lines of the wind going over a rock formation and how it could have formed it into the shape of a lion, where someone looked at it and said, hey, that looks like a lion, and then decided to make it look more like a lion. Fascinating to think about, though. But the study shows a very real possibility of how a natural limestone formation came to have an amorphous Sphinx-like shape. However, that although she has seen yardangs at the Dakhla Oasis in Egypt's western desert, she has never seen a yardang like the one the team produced in their study. So she's saying it could have shaped something into a lion, but nothing like that actually does exist that we know of. Although I would argue that the, where is that? We talked about it, the rocks in the Boussèges Mountains. Yes. In the Boussèges Mountains, there's a rock formation that has a similar thing kind of going on. And it sits at the sort of the promontory of a, like there's like 2 mountains and then there's like a smaller mountain and then you've got the rock formation and you could see how the wind could come up through those 2 higher peaks and sort of shape as it goes. But what do I know? Lots of yelling outside, just so you know. It's been kind of a crazy day. It started at 10 p.m. with a shooting. Someone was shot and killed, like 1 block that way. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, I heard more gunshots. And then I heard a woman screaming. And then I heard, who hurt you? Which is not something you want to hear. And now I hear an argument outside. So you might hear some stuff happening. And I live in a fairly, I think it's a nice city. I like where I live. I live in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I don't think it has a lot of issues. But, I don't know. It's crazy to think that there's shootings. And I'm so blasé about it. But, moving on. This is something that I found this week. The United States, rare early photographs, 1861 to 1871. Not an era where you see photographs. It's like, other than the Civil War stuff, right? Like we see those pictures all the time in our history textbooks and whatnot. But these are photos that have perhaps not been seen as much, and they're from the archives of 19th century photographer Timothy O'Sullivan, and they're brought to us by Jared Boosters. And then there's a whole bunch of comments, which are always interesting to read. But we have stuff like this. Like, what are these people doing? What are they standing on? What's happening? Stuff like this. Well, there we have a Civil War thing going on, clearly. Steamboats. Fun to look at. A little snapshot of American history. When we think of American history, it's like in our imagination. And I feel like seeing this makes it more real. And it's not just in our head what we think it looked like. Like, these are teepees. I don't know. Like, what did you think teepees look like? I don't know. I thought maybe they were bigger, fancier. Maybe they are in some places. Maybe just the squaw's tent is fancy. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking out my ass as usual. Here's a steamboat. You know my fascination with steamboats. This is Jared Boosters. I think I've talked about him before. If we go into his recent photos, we've got the Norayas of Hama. Maybe he was watching this channel and came up with the idea there. Well, come up with all the ideas for my crap that you want. I don't care. You can steal my stuff. Try not to steal my face, like, for anything. I don't think I'm interesting enough to be like AI, though. I'm pretty boring. First photographs of Utah, that's pretty fascinating. 3D photography of the 19th century. It goes on and on. But solid stuff. Let's see which one's the most popular. His stuff's clearly better than mine, better produced. The first photographs ever taken of Iran by Colonel Luigi Pesci. I think I shared these photos. I guess there's probably a lot of overlap. I mean, if you believe in the dead internet theory, there's nothing new out there anyway. So we're all just regurgitating the same nonsense, which is why I do stuff I find interesting, because I try to find stuff that you would not find on your own, probably. Unless you're a shut-in like me and spend way too much on time online. Then maybe. This is something random that I found. A trip to cave towns of Crimea for orphans, 29th of March through 1st of April 2012. And I originally saved this because I thought it would be the good plot to a novel. Right? Like these orphans go to this cave town in Crimea. There's there's an ancient evil that rises up and gobbles up the orphans. And then I'm like, Laura, you're being crazy. Let's look at the caves. That's the more interesting part. Crimea looks like an upside-down cooking pot hanging from the Ukraine in the Black Sea. Favored by Tsars and communist dictators alike and praised by Catherine the Great as the finest pearl in her crown, this Vermont-sized peninsula is perhaps the most idyllic spot in the entire former Soviet Empire, with stunning coastal scenery and popular resorts. It is currently recognized by the international community as belonging to Ukraine, but is claimed, controlled, and occupied by Russia. Crimea is an ancient land of the Cimmerians, Hellenes, Scythians, and Taurs. It is the homeland of Achilles, the hero of the Trojan War. According to legend, Dionysus taught mortals here how to grow grapes and make wine. Thanks, Dionysus. So we've got some information about the climate, the agriculture, the economy, the different civilizations that have occupied it after the Soviet Union collapse, tourism. But the part I wanted to get to, are there not pictures here, or did I just throw this in here? It would appear I just threw this in here. Okay, let's keep it moving. Here we go. Cave cities in the Crimea. Crimea. Not Crimea. What am I? Making up words, making up places. So here we have an example of one of the cave cities. You can see, if you look closely, you can see little sort of holes here and there. I would imagine this structure on the right, that looks like an old monastery with the thick wall protecting it, probably goes down into the caves as a final protective measure if it were to be attacked at some point. Here we have the inside of that cave that the orphans were exploring, but seen from the inside. And I'm showing this to you because there's another photo from this exact spot that's kind of interesting and adds to my potential fictional book about Crimean orphans. This is the Marble Cave. Very beautiful pictures. You can go in, roam around. It has a landslide-style hall. It is one of the largest equipped halls in Europe and the largest hall in the Crimean caves. Its length is more than 100 meters. The height is more than 28 meters. The grandiose walls are covered with coralite flowers. Giant blocks are strewn on the bottom of the hall. Elegant flow columns rise high. A variety of stalactites and stalagmites strike the imagination. The route ends at the crest of the calcite dam. Hundreds of fancy rimstone pools cover the whole dam, and from above you can see the palace hall with its unique flow columns called the King and the Queen. There's a museum there. We can see some of the minerals. There's a waterfall that you could visit. But there was one picture in particular. This is a reserve. Maybe it's in the other one. But you can see from looking at these pictures that this is an incredibly beautiful location. This picture captures sort of the feeling. Oh, it's my cat. The feeling of being there. The beautiful water. It looks gorgeous, right? Okay, let's keep it moving. I thought I was better prepared than this. Here we have the one of the monasteries. Another one of the monasteries. This is different than the one we were just looking at, I think. I think it is. There's a couple of them. But the part I really wanted to show you is when I was looking at the photos, I saw this over here, like this little gazebo looking thing, and I was like, oh, what's that? And I don't know what I did with the photos that I had. Maybe I do. I do. Never mind. We're good. We're good. So you see that there's like these little gazebos that are actually built into the cave, so you could come out to that area, like a balcony, perhaps. Here's another angle of that same monastery building, temple. I'm assuming this is the Inkerman Cave Monastery in Crimea, Russia. Here's another angle. And this is what it looked like in more ancient times. Not necessarily ancient, just older than now. You can see the caves were better defined, and the battlements up top were still developed, and there's a little bridge there, which probably does not exist anymore. But this is the picture that I saw that made me think. So this is taken by those stairs over here. To the left of this picture, you'd have the opening that we saw, and here's this orphan. So this particular picture is a class trip to the Crimean Caves in 1915. And then that got me really thinking, well, maybe they have a trip there every year with a bunch of orphans, and have since the early 1900s or even earlier, and they have to sacrifice a child on every trip. Interesting to think about, right? So I have a little bit of a sore throat today. I'm hoping I don't lose my voice. So if I sound a little, it's because I think I may have gotten a little sick from one of the children. This is a miniature village. Oh my goodness. I didn't sleep very well last night. In Crimea, and these are little tiny miniature buildings. This one is maybe my favorite. So you can walk around. This one is the Ostro Castle. Look at this. This is maybe, what is this one? Does this have a name to it? No, it doesn't. But you can see it's like built into the rock and stuff. Like, what is that? Let's save it, shall we? And let's search for it. Oh, it didn't come up because I'm in this. Never mind. Forget it. Miniatures. Enjoy. It'll be in the links. Moving on. In weird YouTube news this week. So this is called The Music of the Lagoon, and it's a symphony written and directed by Alto Ribera, from 1985, and this is Hermeto Pascoal, who looks to be an interesting person. I shouldn't say creature. It makes him sound like I'm dehumanizing him. I'm not. He just clearly exists on a different plane than the rest of us. Very interesting, right? Let's see what he's got. We've got videos, most popular. Oh, the most popular is the one that I played. Looks like he plays all kinds of instruments. Look at this. Groovy. Oh, I've heard this before. Okay. This week, actually, it was last week, I discovered this thing. And this thing is like, first of all, how dare you, right? He looks so angry. This is an otter civet, and they live in like Indonesia, Thailand. They live in peat marshes, and they are endangered. Then I also found this guy, the yellow-backed duiker. He's got this fluffy stuff on his back, sort of a little tiny baby mohawk on his head. Then I saw these and I thought, oh, that's so sad. He's got a scar on his face. That's terrible. But then I saw this. Did you see that? So this is a muntjac, which is a different creature, but within the same kind of thing. And it has glands that open up when it breathes, and it can pop out these olfactory enhancing things. And it can sniff with its nose and with its face, I guess. There must be an evolutionary reason for that. I'm not sure what it is. I didn't go that deep with it. This is 61 animals for you to bug out about, but the two that I wanted to show you are the Sunda Colugo, which looks like a fake animal, not even real, with those huge eyes. It flies. It's a flying lemur, which is sort of a misnomer because it doesn't actually fly, it glides, and it's nocturnal. And then the other one I wanted to show you, oh, of course I'm not going to be able to find it because, of course, hang on, I'm going there. We're getting there. It's worth the wait. Here it is. Sea pen. All these little frondy things on it. The sea pen is a colonial animal with multiple polyps that root itself in sandy or muddy substrate. They mainly catch plankton. When touched, some sea pens emit a bright greenish light. So when you touch it, it emits a light. See if that's caught on camera. I'm sure it is. Okay, this one's not really doing anything. Oh, wow, look at that. Oh, they sucked it up. That was a terrible video. I mean, I know that's how you learn about things, and they studied it, but I just wasn't expecting that. It caught me off guard. Okay, we're going to move far away from the brutal animal kingdom and into the arts, namely architecture. There's a new maritime museum in China. Here is a rendering of it. It is not yet built. It is being built. It will be completed in 2025. And it is meant to, where's the article that describes it? It's conceived as a type of floating architecture. The elegant and lightweight design seeks to blend into the landscape in an unassuming way. The building forms part of the existing terrain and the mountains, seas, and wetlands that surround the site. Appearing as a cumulus cloud, the museum skin allows in light and permits external views, further establishing a close connection with its context, because it's a maritime museum. Internally, continuous column-free spaces allow for a flexible program and an organic sense of continuity. This is what it would look like when seen on its edge. And these are some of the award-winning entries that didn't make the cut, but were close. This is one that conceived of the museum with One, two, three. I had to count. 6 different buildings. This is another one. This is Zubo Design. This is what it would look like from the side. It does sort of look like it's floating. This is Su Fujimoto and Hawaii Design. And the structure extends into the water. I would imagine there would probably be some sort of boardwalk where people could walk out. This is another one. This is actually my favorite, perhaps. Kenjo Kuma and Associates plus Shenzhen University Institute of Architectural Design. And it looks like a bunch of futuristic chimneys sort of fused together with organic stuff growing on it, which I like. This one looks like a creature from outer space. JKMM Architects in Sueco. Where's the other one I really like? This is interesting. Some of these are like all design and no like real, I mean, I shouldn't say no real thought to what's going on inside, but it's more like, I think the first one is the best. Because you go to a museum, you want to walk around, and that feeling of huge openness, I think, would be very appealing. As I was looking up architecture, as I do, on this particular site, which is the Building Blog, and let me share with you who the owner of this blog is, because I like to recognize people. This is launched in 2004 by Geoff Menon, who is he explores topics related to architecture and the built environment through a lens of technology, literature, crime, history, archaeology, acoustics, science fiction, subterranean space warfare, the planetary spaces, and more. I am a Los Angeles-based freelance writer, author of New York Times best-selling book, A Burglar's Guide to the City, and with Nicola Twilley, co-author of Until Proven Safe, The History and Future of Quarantine. It was listed as his book was listed as one of the best books of 2009. We've had his stuff on here, but we've gone here before because his stuff is just quality. I don't even know if he's still doing it. No, he's not still doing it, because that's how I discovered this article. Is I went to see if there was anything recent by Mr. Geoff, and this is what I found. Enigmatic chemical reactions have broken out underground inside 2 Los Angeles area landfills, according to the LA Times. These highly unusual reactions at Los Angeles County's 2 largest landfills have raised serious questions about the region's long-standing approach to waste disposal and its aging dumps. So there's 2 landfills, very large, in Los Angeles that have these crazy chemical reactions that are going on that are not completely understood. Now, it sounds horrifying, right? Like, oh, there's this chemical reaction. Surely it's not good for the environment, and we'll get to that. But it's not an unusual thing. Like we talked about the nuclear lake in Pauling, where there was an experimental, an experimental lab that blew up, and radiation went kind of everywhere. And now you can hike there. It's part of the Appalachian Trail, but is it really safe? Who knows? Where was the radiation? Exactly. They haven't looked too close. But I'm reminded of a story from the British nuclear facility at Sellafield, whose new owners realized they had incomplete documentation of the site, and thus had no idea where radioactive waste had been buried there. They actually put an ad in the local newspaper saying, "We need your help." Did you work at Sellafield in the 1960s, 70s, or 80s? Were you by chance in the job of disposing of radioactive material? If so, the owners of Britain's nuclear waste dump would very much like to hear from you. They want you to tell them what you dumped and where you put it. Like, what? So this reaction area is 35 acres in one of them. The heat has melted or deformed the landfill's gas collection system, which consists mostly of polyvinyl chloride well casings. The damage has hindered the facility's efforts to collect toxic pollutants. This seems to imply it will get worse, and nearby residents have begun reporting chemical smells. This is a conversation from Hacker News about this article. And the part that I wanted to bring up is the part right at the end, I believe. There are several new parts to this complicated story. The Chiquita Valley site has open working portions and closed areas, most recently relicensed in 2004 for 15 years. There have been odor complaints for years, but increasing in the last 3 years, notable that there was a drought followed by quite a lot of rain. There is a land developer that wants to build 200 homes nearby, and the county is in favor of it, mostly. An October 2023 county review of the site and enforcement actions did not mention any active heat or fire, just problems with odor generally. The U.S. EPA is taking over the response now. Contradictory signals are coming from different local government agencies, and the list of involved agencies is lengthy. This is kind of a big deal. Noxious fumes and contaminated runoff. No easy solution for Chiquita Canyon landfill woes. Federal regulators say it's an imminent danger. A Los Angeles County supervisor says she has lost faith in its management, and aggrieved neighbors have filed 2 lawsuits demanding an end to its operations. Some residents recently complained that the odors are so pungent they have been made to gag or vomit. This goes into more of the logistics of why it can't just be addressed. Like, why can't they just go in there and, like, hose it down or whatever? And it goes into a little bit about our relationship with garbage and how things are disposed of and the future of what garbage disposal might look like or should look like. So that's it for environmental stuff today. Well, I always bring up environmental stuff. We're gonna move on, but I did want to show you something. So this, I think I might have shown you this before. This is a medal that I sold when I was in the biz and did antiques and collectibles. This is a medal that I came across, and it came in a box of other medals, most of them nondescript and sort of general and generic to Eastern Europe. This one caught my eye for obvious reasons. And I said, what is that? So at the time, I was slinging stuff on eBay. So I put it on eBay for like $100 or something. Because I figured the enameling is quite good, right? And it looks like there's some gemstones in here. So I put it up for $100, and then I watched the price start to go up. There was a bidding war between like 3 or 4 guys just going back and forth. Bang, 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 bang. And I'm watching the price go up and up and up and up and up and up. And I'm like, what? Anyway, it did very well. Here's another example of the same metal. It's called the, oh crud. I saved what it was called and I lost it. Search images with Google. This image right here. What is this? This is the Decoration Order of the Great Milos III class. Or Serbia Order of Miloš the Great Knight's breast badge. So all classes, this particular award was awarded during a very short period of time, during a period of turbulence in this particular area of the world. And they've become quite collectible. And there are people that collect just these. And apparently I discovered some of those people when I found one and had it up for sale. Now, I was reminded of this medal, which I brought up before, because I found this on the Metropolitan Museum of Art as I was taking a spin around, and I was looking at the fine enameling on this old watch. And I was getting very excited because I like old watches. I'll never forget the first time I opened a watch, like that you wind up, but like a really old one, and it was a pocket watch. It was probably 2007. I'd never seen a real pocket watch before, which is crazy because I'd always go to yard sales and stuff, but it was the first one I'd really seen. And the guy who brought it in showed me how to gently pop off the back or open the back, because there's different ways. This particular one, you had to pop it off with a penknife. And I remember looking at the inside with all the little gears moving around and the gentle ticking. I was just lost. I was enchanted. I was absolutely enchanted. Clocks get me very excited. So then I thought, well, maybe the Metropolitan Museum of Art has some good stuff to check out with clocks. And I didn't really see anything too crazy. This is a popular clock. This was during the French, some sort of French period. What was this? This is the 1700s, Louis the 15th. And this was a popular style. And then it became popular again because people really liked it. So the clocks on the museum's website left me feeling wanting. So I went looking for some more clocks and watches to look at and get excited about. And I found this set. I don't even know what this is. It's from 1928. Looks like we have glass and just look at the colors on that thing. This thing got me very excited. Oh no. Maybe I won't share that one in the links. So then I ended up with this guy. This is a Gilt Complex Antiques. And he appears to like watches and clocks also. Look at that beauty. So this particular pocket watch is a railroad. It's probably a railroad pocket watch. And they were wound differently, and they were made for precision because you had to be able to, say the train was going to arrive at such and such a time. Here's some more clocks for you to bug out about. And some pocket watches. And some regular watches. Which I love. Where's the one I really liked? Maybe it wasn't there. Look at this. A Bulova. That's beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Now what would happen is sometimes when I did antiques and collectibles is someone would come in with a pocket watch that was gold. And the pocket watch, with a little bit of work and selling it, would make above melt value. Because gold is obviously worth a lot of money, right? You could melt the stuff down and take the watch guts and just throw them away or sell them at a very low price to someone who collects watch guts. And there was a guy who came in with it, and I tried to convince him, we can get more money for this if you let me sell this independently rather than get it melted down. And he's like, no, I need the money now. Let's melt it down. And he actually had proof that he owned it. So it was not a case of someone, having stolen something. But he had a dog that was sick. He needed the money right away. I completely understood. And this looks familiar. Sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, oh, wow, that looks so familiar. And it looks familiar because I've seen many of these before. I used to get just boxes and boxes of watches and clocks and just wonderful stuff. Okay, we're into our big first topic. We're probably like an hour in, right? We're just getting to the meat and potatoes and stuff. Love hotels. This is a love hotel in China. Love hotels are starting to become a thing in China. They were not overtly a thing before. They were big in Japan. Big in Japan, but not necessarily big in China. These are from a love hotel. So a love hotel is supposed to be part of a whole experience, but you're not there for a long time. You go for a couple hours and you have a fantasy moment time with whomever. And then you leave. Or maybe you just stay overnight. But it's not meant to be stayed in for super long term. Here we have some more pictures. This is in Colombia. These are some of the love hotels from Colombia. This is a pagoda. I'm I'm not real sure what the purpose of that table is. It's rather frightening, I guess, to maybe get up in the igloo slash hot tub a little better with a scary polar bear thing. This is the igloo. I'm not quite sure what's happening there. There's a towel that is wrapped in up to look like an erection. Here we have a delightful looking cat. And this is some are very simplistic, and they just have a bed and a chair in the corner. Some of the love hotels. Some of them play movies that you could watch if you wanted. In the world of hotels, Japan is home to some lodging experiences with unmistakable services, amenities, architecture, aesthetics, and food that is quite literally hard to compare. All in the promise to make guests feel an incomparable amount of comfort and joy while traveling abroad. And then there are the love hotels, anonymous, sexually injected hotels with wild experiences from 1960s pulp culture, plastic-themed rooms to straight BDS rooms, not for the faint of heart. These places birthed a culture in Japan that has been objected as much as they've been celebrated. Before we focus on their existence today, let's take a trip down history lane to where they started, because love hotel history is steeped in a rich tradition that arguably hasn't moved so far away from what it has become, and it's worth mentioning. Love hotels began sometime during the Edo period, the 1600s to the 1800s, when they were commonly referred to as daichaya, meaning tea-drinking shops. Couples would arrive at these quaint spots where there were approximately 15 private rooms in any one chaya, and they would be given tea and snacks, after which a bath would be drawn and couples would take baths together and then be left in private to consummate their sexual desires in secret. To ensure payment, their shoes and possessions would be held by the hands of each chaya until their departure. Eventually, the common chaya would be replaced by the machiyai and the sobayas. These were two types of fornication spaces. They couldn't be further from one another, as machai were fairly simple rooms with minimal interaction from the workers. Rooms were in typical fashion tatami flooring with very little accessories to decorate the room, making it very simple. Sobaya, on the other hand, were Japanese noodle shops with rooms for rent. Less likely for couples to use, more commonly they were used by single men who would bring prostitutes or geisha for sexual encounters. One of the main challenges from that time is knowing whether you are going to a real noodle shop or you are going to a noodle shop. Oddly as it might seem by today's standards and cultural rules for Japanese people, by the beginning of the early 1900s, many couples would partake in sexual encounters in open public parks, for instance, the Imperial Palace grounds. However, it didn't last very long, and that was because there would be pollution and people would leave stuff in disarray. Here are some examples of some modern love hotels that you could go to Japan and rent right now if you wanted. Here we have a hospital-looking setup, a schoolroom, a castle, a place that looks like a boat. Here we have a hot air balloon with a suspended chair underneath it, with the hot air balloon forming a round, cushiony bed. So let's just look at some more pictures to finish off. I have a little slideshow here. I wish I could do a slideshow with these, but it won't let me. That's very cool. It's very pink. Stay in the pink room. This one has restraints. We'll keep that one moving. That one has a sex doll. This is the Spaceship Love Hotel in Japan, and this place, I think, is deserted. Recently deserted. This was taken by Obsidian Urbex Photography, who's we featured here before. And he's got a wrestling. One of the rooms has a wrestling area where you could wrestle, among other things. This one has carousels, that horses that go around and around the bed. This looks like the bed goes back and forth, maybe, on these rails. Maybe you can just move it to another spot. The Playboy Brulette bed. This is like one of those spinny wheels that you see in carnivals where the woman is tied to it and the guy with the knives throw the knives at her and she goes, oh, oh, oh. Yeah, that's what that is. These pictures are fascinating to me. I cannot get enough of them. This is, what even is that? That bed is huge. Are we back at the beginning? Yes, we're back at the beginning. I got that particular, I also found this, Bleak Scenes, Abandoned Places, Lesser Known Attractions, and Assorted Oddities. And this is a fun site to cruise around. There's a lot of good stuff. Like if we go to Japan, we could look at, is this the one we already looked at? This is a Love Hotel. She's not looking so great, that doll. So anyway, he's got stuff other than just Love Hotels. Burnout Wedding Venue, Farmhouse, Hotel Bluebird, Concrete Factory, a Seaside Love Hotel. I guess there's so many. This is the only one this guy was able to enter. You can see this is a more, as opposed to what we were looking at before, this is less fancy. So Love Hotels. Anybody here ever stay in one? You ever stay in a Love Hotel? I can say that I have. I've stayed in this one specifically. This is in Yucca Valley, which was about an hour outside of 29 Palms, which is where I was stationed back in the 90s. And we've got theme rooms, 50 suite, cave room. Some of these rooms have not been changed since I've stayed there, I don't think. Some of them look new. But I've spent the weekend there. So it wasn't really like a Love Hotel experience because I stayed for a while. This is the cave room. So each room has its own video, so you could look and see what kind of fascinating rooms there are for rent in Yucca Valley at the, what's the name of this place again? Best Value Inn and Suites. You know, I can see the allure, and I would actually seek out theme suites just for the novelty of it, because, you know, who wants to stay? I mean, look at that. That's not that one. Where'd it go? Like this one. Very plain, very simple. I like the fascinating ones. This is another place I've stayed. This is in San Clemente, and it's Ski V. And I actually didn't stay here on purpose. I was with my boyfriend at the time, Justin, who I was so in love with. And on the weekends, we would find a place to stay to get off base, and we would spend the weekend together and go out to eat and go to the movies, eat a lot of snacks. And yes, there was definitely a lot of sex, but we were not looking for a sex hotel, and we found one, but we kind of liked it, so we would go back to it multiple times. There's a mirror on the ceiling, too. You can't see it in this picture. All right, we're done with Love Hotels. We're going to have a brief interlude here, and then we're going to move into our main topic, which is Mapimi. This is from 2009. This week's of Marginalia is found in the Hag MS MMW 10A14, a now incomplete missile made in the Netherlands in the 14th century. And here it is. Oh no, these lions have things on their heads. Why do they have things on their heads? Why have these lions stuck their heads into a basket in a potted plant? Usually, when I ask such questions, they're less than rhetorical and just the setup for some lame joke. But this time, there actually is a reason. And it's pretty much for the same reason Johnny Depp now has a tattoo reading Wino Forever, as opposed to Winona Forever. Once they balanced on their noses the coats of arms of the original commissioner of the manuscript, Arnold of Orai, who was the Lord of Rumman and the Baron of Quarbeckie, which was all well and good until the Orai family sold the manuscript. The new owner was not so keen on having someone else's coat of arms in the margins of his missal, and so he called in an expert, and they put pots over top of the lion's head. I'm so sorry. I have the craziest itch right now. Oh my God, it's like physically painful. I always get it in one specific spot on my back my whole life. There's this one spot that just drives me crazy sometimes. I have a back scratcher, but it's all the way over there. Let me tell the cat to go get it. Hey, cat, go get my back scratcher. Go ahead, go get it. Go ahead. Nope. She's going for her toys. In this week's medieval news, the little medieval interlude, I found this delightful marginalia thing. And it's a person being ripped in half by horses. So they're drawn and quartered. So arm, leg, tied to horses. The horses are slapped violently. They bolt in 4 directions. You're ripped apart. Violently. I would imagine there'd be some resistance at first. But then stuff would give way. Bones would break and whatnot. Look at this thing. There's like little faces in there. Hi, kitty. Oh, she didn't bring me back my back scratcher. The nerve. This is my medieval find of the week, and I don't know why it delights me so much. Here we have these 2 women, and they have a little stick, and they're pointing at jewelry. And then to the left of them, we have what is presumably the merchant. He's got his hand in his pocket because he's cool like that. And he's also pointing at the jewelry. So I would imagine this is a medieval transaction wherein someone from the royal court is pointing at the jewelry they want to purchase, or maybe it's just the jewelry they want to wear and it's kept in like a special spot and they have to go into the archives to get out their special jewelry. I'm completely spitballing. I don't actually know, and I didn't look. Let's see if this gives any information. I don't think it does. No, it doesn't really say. I could probably find it if I really wanted to. You know what? I don't really want to. It's cool. There it is. You see it. This is carried over from last week. Last week I was looking at frescoes. And we were looking at them together. The weird, kind of crazy things you find in churches in Eastern Europe. And then I found this church, which is in Ukraine. And these are the frescoes. Oops. I went too far. These are the frescoes that are painted in this church. I didn't show them last week because they're just so dissimilar. They're just so modern and fresh looking, right? It's just, I'm in love with them. Quite honestly, I can't get enough of these photos. This is what the cathedral looks like. It's the Armenian Cathedral of Lviv. Absolutely breathtaking. All of it. Here we have the apse, little atrium. I forget who this guy is. He shows up a lot in medieval art holding the building. Let's see. Who is the saint in medieval art who is always holding a building? There we go. Invariably, the small building that the person is holding is a replica or model of a church or monastery that person founded or was a major patron of. Medieval art was very different from the Renaissance or Enlightenment, where the latter generally tried to represent things in a realistic way. In medieval art, it was all about symbolism. People would be shown large or small as a representation of their relative importance, not because of physical size or perspective. And virtually everything in the picture had some symbolic meaning. Everything was heavily stylized and idealized because what we call reality just didn't matter to the artists. They cared about the spiritual reality. So you get pictures of people holding buildings. Quite often, abbots are portrayed that way, holding the monastery they founded or headed, and are often mistaken for bishops because the badges of office are the same: mitre, crozier, staff ring, and pectoral cross. I actually did not know that till just now, so I feel very, very enlightened. I'm just so enlightened right now. I love learning new things. It's fantastic. Okay, it looks like a lot. Okay, and maybe it is a lot. But it's gonna go pretty fast, I think. No, probably not. It's not gonna go fast. If you don't like this episode by now, or if you don't like me because you randomly happened upon this, it's not going to get any better for you. So just go watch something else that you do enjoy, right? Because there's something out there you like for sure. And if it's not me, that's cool. We're going to get in the mood. We need to get into the Mexican mood. Cathedral in Durango, Mexico. This is a very, very old picture. It's probably a plate. It looks like a plate. I actually found behind me here a salt print. I didn't even know I had a salt print, but I have a salt print behind me. I knew it was an old photo, but I didn't realize it was a salt print. It's a type of the way photography was reproduced back in the day. But this is Durango, Mexico. To further get in the mood, we have some more pictures. But I specifically wanted to show you this one. So this is ancient Mexico. Ancient, it's like the 1500s. But we see well-appointed structures, a thoughtfully laid out city, protective structures, a hierarchy to the buildings. You can see where the rich people probably live. There's agriculture. We have a cart, merchants going back and forth. Looks like we have a couple of churches on the outskirts. So ancient Mexico in the 1500s, we think about the 1500s in the United States that we know of and acknowledge. There was not this type of activity. Not like this. It was slightly different. Like if we talk about, what is it, Coxsackie? No, do you know what I'm talking about? Cahokia. Cahokia is from... Okay, it was from a long time ago. There was a city there as well. So, talking out my ass again. But, my point being, Mexico, well established. This particular area, a lot going on. Now, you might say, well, why was there so much going on, Laura? What was happening? And we're just going to look at some pictures for a minute before I answer that question. A little musical interlude. You can see the Spanish influence in a lot of these pictures. Oh, geez, Louise. Look at that incredible looking church. The Plaza de la Constitucion and the Durango Cathedral. These pictures are incredible to me. What we're listening to is Pipeline by DJ Steve. I wonder if it's going to copyright me. I should probably shut it down, just in case, because I don't know. Let's see. We're going to keep it moving. I was going to play music in the background, but playing music is just so weird these days, right? Like, you don't know. You don't know. So I know that this does not have copyright. This is the Sleeping Cliffs. And we're just going to have it playing in the background while I talk. Only 173 views. That's crazy to me. This is a solid song. Some more Spanish influence, colonial influence. This is clearly a more modern building. We have the mid-century detail there. So there we have some photos of Mexico. Now, today's topic was inspired by this picture. And you might say to yourself, well, Laura, what is this picture? What am I looking at? This is the magnetic makeup, geologically, of Mexico. And I'm super into geology, and that's probably how I came across this particular thing. But I immediately started looking for anomalies, because that's what I do when I see a map. I start looking for things that are different, things that are dissimilar, changes in elevation that seem unexpected, things that are weirdly shaped, right? So we have this. This is a crater impact that's in the Yucatan, a very famous crater impact. And we can see it has a very unique magnetic structure when seen from above. But this got me thinking about this area right here. This whole area right in here, where this sort of circle is. And then we have what looks to be very strong magnetism. So the darker pink is stronger magnetism. So we have stronger magnetism in here. In fact, we have this whole band that traverses a large area. Now, why did that strike me as interesting? It struck me as interesting because, well, I'll tell you in a second. Let's look at a modern map, the area we're talking about. This is the area right here. And it's the Reserva de la Biosfera Mapimi. Mapimi. Oh, Lord. I have to look it up, otherwise I'm going to... Pronunciation... Mapimi, Mexico.
Mapimi.
Mapimi, see? Mapimi.
Mapimi.
Mapimi. One more time.
Mapimi.
Mapimi. I was saying it wrong. Good thing I looked it up. Mapimi. Okay, here we have Reserve de la Biosfera Mapimi. And then right here, Zona del Celienzo, otherwise known as the Zone of Silence. How did it get such a name? We're going to talk about that in a moment. But first, I kind of wandered around looking for... wait a minute. What is that? What is that? What is coming up here? Pictures. I did not know there were pictures. Okay. I did find this. What looks to be like striations and small holes over hundreds of miles in the Chihuahua Desert. Just these lines that go on and on and on. I was not able to find out what they are or what has caused them. There has to be a reason, right? This looks like there might have been a road. The only thing that I could think of is industrial, but it's over thousands of miles, or hundreds of miles, not thousands of miles. So that makes me kind of go, huh. And this particular area is not too far away from the United States. So actually the weirdness of the zone of silence starts as soon as you cross the border. As soon as you cross the border right there, and you head south, down through Chihuahua, stuff starts to get weird. Fingerprints of the God. This person posted it in Reddit, and nobody answered. Wah, 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 wah. Mappy me, mapping me, mopping me, mopping me, mopping me, mopping me. It is a city and municipal seat of the Mapimi municipality in the Mexican state of Durango. It has a population of approximately 5,600 people. The Ochuela mine, about 3 miles southeast of Mapimi, is a famous locality for mineral specimens, especially adamite. Adamite looks like that. Adamite is a rock that has like a crust on the outside, but when you break it open, it has little sparkly crystals that are often very small. It's located in the Bolson de Mapimi, or the basin, which is a large area of desert and mountains in interior northern Mexico. It is an endorheic basin, meaning that no rivers leave the basin to flow to the sea, but terminate, often in low-lying, shallow, endorheic lakes. The Mapimi Mountains rise from the southern edge of the town, reaching a maximum elevation of 8,000 feet. It's considered a desert climate. So this shows kind of where Mapimi is, which we just looked at, and this would be the Plaza de Armas. This is a very old church. Can I make it any bigger? No. That's as big as I can make it. I wonder what this woman would say if she knew that someone was staring at her right now, staring at the back of her head on Google Earth, or this guy, sitting here thinking about life at the Oxo bar. I thought it might be interesting to go into sort of the history of Mapimi a little bit. And this is a huge, huge article. This is academic with lots of references, and there's a whole bibliography at the end. But the part that I want to bring up is that this particular area was not considered occupied by the Aztecs, who built cities and settled in one place. This area was inhabited by semi-nomadic indigenous Mexicans of many different types. I think there's 39 different languages in Durango, or there was. There was something I wanted to share with you on this, and of course I did not mark it, because I was like, oh, I'll find it again. Of course I will, because I'm smart and I can find stuff again. And this is me not finding stuff. In the 1500s is when mining first started to take off. And it was kind of like a free-for-all, and things built up very quickly. Then there was a lull in the mining activity. Some towns went by the wayside. Some towns just sort of clung to life. And then technology opened up ways to get at different layers of the mine, or more of a mine, or deeper into the mine. And then there was a whole other thing all over again. This is the part I wanted to bring up. By the beginning of the 17th century, Spanish authorities had organized many of the Indians in Durango and Sinaloa into encomiendas. So, an encomienda is sort of like a commune where the Indians would live for free, but in exchange for working for the man. And they became basically slaves for the Spanish estates. And that the Jesuits, them again, the Jesuits, I should talk about the Jesuits sometime, that they had a systematic congregation of Indians into villages. So that was kind of their thing. They like civilized the Indians. And as a result of this civilization that was happening, as part of the wave of I was talking about when the mining stopped a little bit and many towns kind of went by the wayside, there's another aspect to this, and that is smallpox and measles, which wiped out a huge number of people. So the Jesuits just traveled around this whole area, just bringing their diseases with them, smallpox being the worst of it. And then it talks about the revolts that the indigenous inhabitants fought very, very hard against the Spanish for a very long time. Why do I bring that up? Just talking about the general sort of history of the area. That's not even talking about like the pre-Columbian or anything. Like we're not even talking about that. We're just talking about from the 1500s on. This is what the Ochuela mine looked like. These little hut things at the top, that's exactly what they are. That's where the miners would live. This is the mine itself. And the miners would descend into the mine, do their shift, and then emerge back up into the open air and go back to their little hut that they probably shared with 15 or 20 other people. Here's another amazing picture of the mine. This is from the other side. This is showing the smelting plant and the other buildings that are used to process what is coming up out of the mines. Here we have some examples of some of the mines, some of the minerals that have come out of there. As you can see, they're very colorful. This is another academic article, and it has 43,000 words approximately. So we will not be reading it exhaustively, but there are portions that I wanted to bring up. And one of them is that they're still discovering stuff in this mine, although now the people that are mining have to travel 2 hours to get to locations where they can mine. Mechanowite, the natural analog of synthetic AXMN to the second power, S4 oxygen 3, sulfur 4 oxygen 3. I don't know. My mind just made the windows closing sound. Okay. A new mineral was discovered. There are 117 known minerals that have come out of the mine. This particular article talks about all of them at the very bottom, with pictures of some of the more remarkable specimens that have come from there. So if you're into geology like I am, like look at that, that's fluorite, I believe. No. That's adamite. It's beautiful, 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 beautiful. Here we have some pictures of some of the mines. This is what the mine looks like today. This is a suspension bridge that is kind of famous. The mining ordinances of 1783, so this is when there was another wave kind of mining. The so-called New Code of Charles III was the most complete mining code compiled by any nation up to that time. And 1792 saw the founding of the Mexican School of Mines, the first technical school in the New World. A final great boom of Spanish-Mexican silver production took place in the 2 decades just before the Wars of Independence, with Mexico producing between 20 million and 25 million in silver and gold annually. And you can bet your bottom dollar a lot of it did not stay in-house. Miners would carry ore out on their backs in bags of leather or plant fiber. And the sacks had straps that went across the forehead. So you can read more about about the mining. But if you'll excuse me for just a second. I definitely have a touch of something. So this goes into the economics as well, and the logistics of the mine, the Ojuela mine, and the various other mines. It's fascinating stuff. This is more about the geology, but the part of this that really excited me, is watch this. Are you watching? I found a map that is clearer than Google Earth. And we can see this area. Oh no, that's a lake. Okay, now I've lost my bearings, so here we go. But we can see how the land looks like the hand of God reached down and went, oh, and shook it all up. If we go here, we can see some kind of industrialization going on there, or agriculture. Wow, I can get really close. That's pretty cool. So this will be in the links. You can bug out with this map because it's way clearer than other maps, than the Google Maps. But I got excited because I thought I could find where the nuclear bomb crashed. And you might be saying, what? Nuclear bomb? Or where the alien spaceship crashed. But I was not able to find either of those locations. If you are into railroad stuff, this is a small article I found about the railroad, which is fascinating. But I'm not going to go into it today because I'm losing my voice, and we're probably at like 2 hours by now, right? I've been talking for like forever. But now we get to the mysterious zone of silence. In the Chihuahuan Desert of northern Mexico, there is an area where compasses spin out of control and radio signals don't work. This place is called the Zone of Silence. It has been an area that has caught the eye of many scientists over the years due to its tendency to attract meteorites and space debris. It measures 30 miles across and is entirely undeveloped. The closest village is Escalon, Chihuahua, which is on the edge of the zone. Let's look at Escalon, Chihuahua. Okay, Escalon is slightly southwest of this, which I was using as a marker. There's Escalon. And then we have the Zone of Silence. The mysterious effects of the Zone of Silence are thought to be caused by subterranean deposits of magnetite, along with debris from meteorites. During the 20th century, several large meteorites landed near the zone, but the area itself was not named or researched until 1966, when an oil company called Pemex, which is a whole other conspiracy, sent explorers to investigate the area. They first noticed the disturbances there and christened the location the Zone of Silence. The area did not gain public notoriety until July 11, 1970, when the Athena rocket was supposed to return to Earth. It had been launched as part of a scientific mission to study the upper atmosphere, but when it returned, it crashed into the heart of the Zone of Silence. In response to this phenomenon, Werner von Braun, a famous Nazi scientist, brought in a team to the crash site to excavate the crashed rocket. They stayed for a month, removed all the debris from the crash. Okay. So we're going to go into that in just a minute. This land has even more to offer than its stories of unusual celestial activity. It happens to be home to North America's largest land reptile, the Gopherus tortoise. The area used to be under the Sea of Thetis and has consequently left numerous fossilized seashell and salt deposits as well. Biologists visit the area from all over, along with miners looking to profit from the salt deposits and the mines. By far the most interesting aspect of the Zone of Silence is the stories of alien and paranormal encounters there. People often get lost in the zone. When this happens, sometimes tall blonde beings appear out of nowhere. These blonde beings are said to speak perfect Spanish, ask only for water, and disappear without a trace. People claim to have seen bright lights or fireballs in the sky and have returned from the zone to discover that many hours have passed without their noticing. Some believe the Zone of Silence is actually the site of a UFO crash dating back over 100 years. It also happens to be parallel with the Egyptian pyramids and the Bermuda Triangle. I don't know how interesting that is. So, I'm not sure what this is or why I saved this. Well, this is supposed to be with the railroad stuff. So we'll move on. Mark 17 bomb accident site, New Mexico. Now this goes before 1970. This is before 1970. So stuff's been crashing out there for a while. A thermonuclear bomb fell out of a plane and landed on Mesa del Sol, 1 mile southeast of the Albuquerque airport. The hydrogen bomb, a Mark 17 model, was one of the largest and most powerful weapons ever made by the United States. Wait, is this, maybe this isn't what I wanted. No, this is New Mexico. I'm talking out my butt again. This is not what I was looking for. This is what I was looking for. It was 1970, though. On July 11, 1970, the United States Air Force launched an Athena rocket from the Green River Launch Complex in Utah. While its intended target was the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico, it impacted 180 to 200 miles south of the Mexican border. It had an abnormal re-entry into the atmosphere, and it crashed into the Mapimi Desert, which is in the northeast corner of the state of Durango. While the 3-paragraph memorandum may seem as though the mishap was nothing to be concerned about, the cleanup effort was long, costly, and included the construction of a road through the Mapimi Desert to excavate hundreds of tons of soil from the impact site. The scale of the cleanup was due to the fact that the rocket was carrying 2 small vials of cobalt-57, an isotope used to enhance radioactive fallout with the intention of contaminating large areas of land. This is also known as a salted bomb. Here we have the estimated impact area, and as we can see, yes, it's the Zone of Silence. So they lost it on radar, it evaded radar, and then it went crazy, and then it crashed, and then they had to go get it. While it could easily be written off as a military and scientific blunder, the Athena V-123D launch on July 11, 1970 has a very rich backstory that has a lot to teach us about the ways in which genuine diplomatic, security, and logistical concerns can be swept under the rug in the face of myopic policymaking. In this sense, it seems almost fitting that the area of the Mapimi Desert that was impacted by the rocket has become much less a symbol of the Cold War arms race than it is a magnet for paranormal and extraterrestrial folklore. Before we talk about the UFOs and stuff, this is something completely random that I found. Retablos? We dedicate the small retablo to St. Jude Thaddeus with eternal gratitude for working the miracle of saving our brother Tomas from the bullet that the army shot in his leg, and we are able to get back to our families. I went to camp in the mountains alone. The morning I was mortally terrified when I saw an enormous bear near my tent. I thanked St. Francis because the bear entertained himself with my beer cans and fell asleep so I could escape from this situation. I can't decide if this is fantasy or like. So this is a plane that crashed. This is, my dog and I lived alone on a piece of land almost surrounded by water, and we were happy in this world of ours. Once during rough seas, we rescued a beautiful girl from the water whose boat had sunk. As soon as we saw her, we fell in love with her, and for a while, she reciprocated our feelings. Now the three of us live in our own beautiful world of sand and sea. Okay. But there's one in particular. I'm going to go with, like, not real, like comedy. But this is the Thank Jesus for Creating Pongtron. And this is, my fiance and I went to an outing. We met an alien family who had a picnic. We were frightened and we prayed the Virgin for protection. And then we ran away. We thanked the Virgin for the aliens did not see us. Anybody know what these are? So this is a site that I found. This is a gentleman's page. He's not actively doing anything on it, but it's still of interest, I believe. And he's got all kinds of stuff. And he's actually from Spain. He's not from Mexico, but he talks about the Roswell incident of Mexico, known as Coyame. For some years now, international ufological interest has been directed towards a remote Mexican region where it is claimed that a ship of unknown origin crashed in the 1970s. Many consider it as the Roswell of Mexico. So what happened? What is this? In 1992, the American researcher Vince Johnson obtained a controversial document supposedly declassified from the archives of the all-powerful NORAD. It stated that on August 25, 1974, around 10:07 p.m., USAF defense radars detected a possible meteor. It was 40 miles southwest of Corpus Christi, coming from the Gulf of Mexico. The strange object was flying at about 4,500 kilometers and had an altitude of 2,400 meters. So as they were watching it, it started to do stuff on its own. It started to sort of move, not in a way that a meteor would move. So they're sort of staring at the radar, these men, with their mouths open, sort of going, what is that? So as it started to descend, it decelerated. And at this point, another radar picked it up. So there were two that picked it up. But then it entered the zone of silence, and everything went dead. There was nothing. They couldn't see it on the radar. There was nothing that could be done. Now, at the same time, there was a plane that was flying in the area. And because of the radar going down and the inability of the air traffic controllers to communicate with this plane, the plane crashed into the UFO. These revealing data served as a start for Vince Johnson to investigate the alleged crash of an extraterrestrial ship in Mexico. He was thus able to determine, with the help of several confidants, that this incident occurred in the Coyame Desert, a lost town in Chihuahua with only about 2,500 inhabitants. In the secret documents leaked to the ufologists, the incredible story of the recovery of the crashed UFO was reconstructed. So the next day, stuff kind of went crazy, and the CIA got involved. And the lead up to this is a little muddy. There's probably a language barrier because this is translated. But American Secret Services agents got involved when they heard the military say that they had found a strange circular plane in one piece. And then things got even weirder. Suddenly, the Mexican operators ordered the soldiers to maintain strict radio silence in their communications. At that time, all the alarms went off at the CIA, and through contacts at the highest diplomatic level, they immediately offered advice and help to the Mexican government for the recovery of the UFO. However, the authorities of the Aztec country, Mexico, downplayed the fact and denied the kind request of their interested neighbors. But the North American spy agency continued with its intentions to get a hold of the crashed UFO. So the Secret Services, because they have all this technology, and Mexico probably didn't at the time. I mean, we probably had technology that was superior. The Secret Services located the military patrol in Cayame, heading back to its base. The images left no room for doubt in the astonishment and bewilderment of CIA analysts. The Mexican army had recovered a mysterious disc-shaped object that it was transporting in a truck escorted by several jeeps. So the North American army at this point is like, maybe we should snatch it. Like, maybe we should just, like, take it from them. Just, like, swoop down and get it. But then there was a new dramatic, there was a twist in the plot. Satellite photographs confirmed that the convoy had inexplicably stopped in the middle of the desert. A few minutes later, other images offered an unexpected and heartbreaking novelty. The Mexican soldiers were lying on the ground, apparently dead. USAF analysts determined that they could have died from exposure to a lethal virus from the extraterrestrial device. The rescue operation saw the green light. That's when Mexico was like, all right, you guys can take over because we're not about, like, killing all our people. So they landed next to the inert Mexican convoy. They verified that all the personnel have died. Some were not even able to get out of their vehicles. They showed no symptoms of violence. And then on the truck, they see a strange disc-shaped device, a convex on both sides, about 5 meters long by 1.5 meters high, without any type of window or door. It also has no distinctive markings or visible propulsion system. It appears to be made of polished steel and has some damage and a irregular hole in its front part, about 30 centimeters in diameter, from which an undetermined substance emanates, and a dent about 60 centimeters long. So, a detachment went there. The UFO was hooked on a steel cable so that it didn't, like, come in contact with anybody. And then it had to be transported. Now, before you dismiss this all as hogwash, there were windows that were blown out on this evening as a result of the crash. Other locals have spoken of unusual lights, weird sounds, just weirdness in the sky. They're like, yeah, there was weirdness that night. We saw it. And they saw it not knowing what was happening. They just looked up and they were like, well, what the heck is that? So it may have been transferred to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. But other sources say the UFO was taken to an undetermined base in Atlanta, Georgia. It is not specified whether alien bodies were recovered. It is now said that the documents in the case were destroyed. And when it traveled to its destination, it took all back roads using very isolated roads and highways. The investigations of the authors of the book specify that the UFO crashed in a place called El Llano, about 30 kilometers from the Rio Grande, coinciding with the data presented by the North American colleague. They have also found remains of a crashed small plane in the desert whose analysis by an aeronautics expert has been determined that it would be from the mid-1970s. Likewise, they learned that from the residents of the Cayame ranches that many years ago the military recovered several bodies from inside of a well. They were intrigued that the police did not deal with the matter and that the soldiers carried out the recovery with total secrecy. There you go. In the Chihuahua newspaper archive, as verified in situ by researcher Ruben Villatoro, precisely the diaries from August 1974 are missing. So everything from 1974, all the news from that day is gone. He talks about it a little bit more. Some people say it was fake. It was just to drum up Cold War stuff. I think something happened. I think stuff's crashed here before. This is a shorter article if you didn't want to read that whole long thing. This is a little bit more on the entire how about the cover up and the uncharted path and the unsolved riddle of it all. What was the plane doing? So there you have it. That is not a real picture. Let me see. I'm just looking what it says at the very end. This article does say that Koyame, known not just for its desert landscapes, but also airspace frequented by drug couriers, offers another perspective. So they're saying it could have just been a drug trafficker that crashed and not a UFO. And then it's also saying that maybe it was the drug trafficker that collided with the UFO. So very, very mysterious. And then there was a Wikipedia drop. There's a bug in here. In the ever-evolving story of this strange event, digital breadcrumbs have emerged. An anonymous drop on the Wikipedia page of Torres and Uriarte yielded a treasure trove of details, names, and serial numbers pointing towards the very human players in this interstellar drama, both from Mexico and the United States. The echoing silence of unofficial channels often speaks louder than words. Both Mexican and U.S. governments, when questioned about the fabled Koyame incident, respond with denials. Adding to the air of mystery, archival records from the Koyame newspaper for that particular month have vanished. Multiple soldiers died on that day. Is it related or not related? That's a singular article. So it kind of goes on. And, okay, it doesn't go on that far. That's it. That's the end. Fascinating, no? I'd never heard of that. This is some more about the unique biology of that area of the world. It has the purple cactus, and I don't know why I have this. This is pretty much a useless article. Okay. I think it was just to show you the picture of the cactus, which is very beautiful and very purple. Villagers claim they are living among aliens, UFOs, and interdimensional porters. It is claimed by locals the Mexican desert area is the scene of many UFO sightings, and there are also a suggestion that the radio signals and other communication types cannot be received there. Many residents in a remote village in Mexico said they have seen everything from the mysterious flying objects to extraterrestrial life forms. The small settlement of Linda Vista is located near the UNESCO Mapimi Biosphere Reserve in the north-central area of the country. The community is home to one of 3 sites of the so-called Zone of Silence. The desert area, also called the Mapimi Silent Zone, is said to be the scene of multiple alleged UFO sightings. We have some photos of some things in the sky. And villagers also claim that the area is home to interdimensional porters and caves with unusual engravings of spaceships and mysterious life forms. Aguilar said one of them has a symbol of a sun, but nomads had never lived here. It is said to be from another type of being. If you look, there are carvings of a head like a Martian. A team of reporters from the Mexican TV channel Telediario went to Linda Vista to investigate the locals' claims. After interviewing multiple villagers, they said many of them had videos or photos to accompany their tales. The TV crew waited for nightfall and said they soon witnessed a bright light traveling south in the sky. So, Zone of Silence, there you have it. Very fascinating to think about. And just like the Bermuda Triangle, it could just be, or what I think the Bermuda Triangle is, I think there's just weird geological elements that are able to affect compasses and whatnot. Before we wrap up, I thought you would be excited to know that the Jayhawks have a new song, which I somehow missed. Oh, it was originally released in 2018. Okay, well, it's a new release from the Jayhawks. I love the Jayhawks. Rat-a-tat Rome is a song that you should absolutely listen to. I'm not sharing it because of copyright concerns. There's no singing, it's just instruments, but it's a journey. Like, you're going to want to put on headphones, cover your eyes, sit in the dark, and let the music take you away to another place. All right. Now, as we wrap it up, we're going to look at, what is this? Oh, that was one. I was trying to figure out what that was. Cabinet of Curiosities. Just random stuff. Javanese Islamic wooden circumcision chair. Vietnamese ceremonial trident. Look at that thing. That looks crazy. These are shoes, very expensive shoes. This is an anklet. Rare inscribed Shiavite 22 spout water vessel or lota. Interesting. I'm not sure what. A bezoar stone with silver mounts and chain. What is a bezoar stone? A bezoar is a mass of indigestible material that can form in the gastrointestinal tract of humans and animals. Looks like we can buy some, guys. For $4,000, we could buy a rare 18th century bezoar. I think I'll pass on that. This is a rug. Or a tapestry. These are very interesting. Rare Nepalese inscribed in gilded copper Buddha's footprints, Buddha Bada portable mandala plaque. I messed that up. This is a brass helmet. That's a nice belt. Mongo woman's woven buttock shield. This would shield the top of a woman's buttocks. We have the rings, the padwang or kawalawi, long-necked women's brass neck rings and anklets. Say that 5 times fast. Okay, so we've come to the end, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. It was very long. I think you'll agree. Maybe you learned something. I have a busy week ahead because there's lots of things that I've been procrastinating on, and they're now threatening to come down upon me. So either I deal with the things or they deal with me. I'm just not very good with everyday stuff. I know nobody really is, but I'm especially bad. All right, I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their Sunday, and I will look forward to seeing you soon.